everyone. Oh my gosh, I have like 5 pages of notes to share with you today. I have so much content. So today's day 3 of the 4-day live stream series that I am doing. Today we're going to focus on lots of marketing stuff. So we're going to focus on author mindset. We're going to focus on income streams and how to plan for your income. And we're also going to focus on systems that simplify your marketing. And we're talking a bit about readership too. So for anyone who is joining live, let me know that you're here in the comments. If you're catching the replay, remember to leave your questions because tomorrow is the final day and I'll be answering any questions live over there. Speaking of which, we're going to start off today by answering a few questions from yesterday and then we'll get into the content of today. So Richa asked, I would like to ask, when should we host a launch party? So like the virtual release day party or even just a general party, I guess. Should it be on the same day as the launch on KDP or a few days before the KDP launch? So I believe that you can do it any time in your launch week. I would generally recommend doing it in that launch week if possible. It doesn't really matter when you do it. Like if you had to do it a week before or after, that would be fine as well. But you don't want to confuse your readers. So I would just make sure that communication is very clear. If it were me, I would try to do it on the same day because it just makes the most sense. That's when people are most excited to buy. It's when it's available. So you can, have a really great launch party and have people really excited to buy the book and then just be like, here's the link, you can buy it today. And so there's really no waiting or resistance to it. If you were to do it a day before, like that would still hype people up because they'd be like, oh, I'm going to go pre-order it. And if you were to do it a day after, like, I think doing it after is okay as well, especially because it'll keep the hype going. But just keep in mind that from the day of your launch and through like every day after, that's when hype's going to go down and down and down. So like you do want to do it as close to that launch day as possible is basically what I recommend. So that's that. Let me know if that answers your question. What I also want to just quickly cover is what today's video is going to be about. So I did mention it was going to be about marketing, but basically it is good for you if you are at the author stage, which means that you're taking authorship seriously, you're looking into how to build your readership, you're looking into, querying traditional publishers or trying to self-publish, so all of that's good. And if you're in the published author stage, so that means that you've just published a book, you're getting ready to make more sales or you're trying to increase your sales and basically you're just exploring marketing options and avenues. So this is a really good video for you today. So as I'm chatting, make sure that if you have any marketing questions, drop those below because I will go ahead and answer them at the end. And if you're catching the replay, I'll answer them tomorrow. Okay. So let's start off by talking about author mindset, which is what I always like to start off talking about with anything, is I like to cover mindset because mindset is foundational. And there's lots of things I want to talk about regarding mindset. The very first thing, or the very first realization that I had as an author when I first started out is I realized I had to stop thinking like a hobbyist writer and I had to start thinking like a publisher in a business if I had any hope of having my books be successful, get readership, make sales, anything like that. Because if I was still in my hobbyist writer mindset, I wasn't taking action from the place of someone who, has that kind of success and lives that kind of life. So a good example, like just something that might be relatable to where you are now is like, if you're still in the, and I say that like you're a writer if you aren't taking your authorship career seriously or your writing seriously. So if you are someone who still writes whenever you feel like it, you don't really have a routine. That's not to say that you have to write every day, but like you don't have some kind of routine so that you can meet deadlines. You don't meet any deadlines or you don't work with editors, you don't have critique partners, like anything like that where you're just not really treating it seriously means that you're still in that hobbyist mindset. But if you're looking at it like, okay, I'm going to get published, I'm writing down, the list of agents and publishers, I'm looking into publishing, I'm looking into marketing, anything like that where you are treating it more seriously and you're thinking, how do I make this successful? How do I get it into the hands of readers? How do I publish this properly? Anything like that means that you're in the publishing business mindset, which is good. So that's the first step to take if you're brand new to mindset work, is to make sure you're not in the hobbyist writer mindset still. Okay, now here's another reason why mindset is so critically important. So if you, let's say that you came to me, and this does happen a lot, by the way. People come to me and they go, I don't know what I'm doing wrong with my book marketing. I've tried all this stuff, none of it's working. And like, oftentimes, like they'll say, I tried building readership this way, or I tried marketing this way, and I'll look at their strategy and I can see some tangible things that they can change. But most of the stuff they're doing is actually quite fine. It's very much on point. They just need to tweak something, or they need to continue to do something more, or they need to add something in. So usually there's not much strategy stuff that I'm giving them on the call. It usually comes down to their mindset and to self-sabotaging behaviors. So a lot of times someone will say to me, I've been posting to social media, and I might say, how much have you been posting to social media? And they might say once a week, and I'm like, why don't you show up every day? And they might say, well, I don't want to be salesy and annoy people. Self-sabotaging behavior, because the truth is that there's so much content out there every day. No one's going to get annoyed if you show up and post every day. The truth is, you're a business. You're a published author, you're a business. People expect you to show up and market every day, because otherwise, what are you doing? That's why they follow you. They want to hear from you. And how are people supposed to find your stuff if you're not doing that? So self-sabotaging behaviors really, really get in the way. Another thing could be that you doubt yourself, so you're not putting yourself out there. It could be that you're afraid people are not going to like your book, or they're going to say something bad about your book. It could be that you don't feel good when you market, like you don't like the way that you market, so you don't know how to fix that. What are some other things that sometimes happen? So some things that I identify a lot, I actually wrote down some examples. So not self-promoting out of fear of being spammy or fear that no one will like the book. Not calling yourselves an author, I see this a lot. Not calling yourself an author and not branding yourself as an established author, because that impacts your sales negatively, right? So like a lot of authors who are not yet published, they don't call themselves an author, even though they're taking it seriously and they're doing all the right steps, and they do in fact have a book on the way to be published by a certain date. They still don't call themselves an author. So like that's why I say the difference is that you're an author or you're a published author. It doesn't mean that you're not an author, it just means you're not a published author yet. Because if you're not calling yourself an author, then that looks really bad in the eyes of readers. They're not going to see you as very credible. And I have a perfect example to show you later in today's training that's really going to help to hit that one home. But basically, the way you brand yourself, the way you position yourself, the way you talk about yourself online impacts a lot of marketing stuff as well. So like hiding yourself and like not showing up as your true established self online, that's a self-sabotaging behavior. And also underpricing your books out of belief that no one's going to pay you what they're worth. So like, think of it this way, I think I mentioned this yesterday, but the two strategies for self-publishing and traditionally publishing do not change. The only thing that changes is who's doing the work, right? So if both of them are the same and one cannot be wrong while the other is right, then answer me this. If a New York Times bestselling author can charge $10 for their ebook, why can't you? If none of the things have changed, the only difference is that they are, signed with this big five publisher that makes them seem more established and credible, and they have this readership that they have access to. That doesn't mean you can't do that. That doesn't mean that your book is less worthy or less valuable or less well written, because at the end of the day, you both have the same skill set, you both have the same ability. Not to say that you can both write the same way. What I mean is like you can both do the same job, right? And you both have readers who want to read your work, so why can't you charge what you're worth? It really doesn't, I don't see why people do this at all unless they're trying to do it for a specific strategy and a specific result, in which case, yes, that does work, but if you're doing it because you're afraid that no one's going to buy your book, that is a self-sabotaging behavior, and it really undermines the way that you show up online and think about yourself. So there's lots of things we could talk about here, but mindset is a huge, huge thing, and that's why I talk about it in all of my programs and courses. So the way it works, if you haven't already caught on, is that you receive a strategy and you either don't believe in yourself or the strategy enough to fully implement it and follow it through. So like you might be thinking, well, I could show up and market online through social media, but in my past experience, it hasn't worked for me, so I'm not going to. Or I could show up and market online, but no one wants to read my book, so I'm not going to. Two different situations going on, but those are two examples. So as a result, you think it doesn't work, you self-sabotage, And then you get into this spinning in circles cycle of like, oh my gosh, it didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work. And I knew this was going to happen. And now I need a different strategy because that didn't work. And so you're kind of like, you're just self-sabotaging yourself. Like, do you see what I mean? So the truth is that no matter what strategy I give you, everything works. It's just your belief and your faith behind what it is that you're doing that determines your results. And the truth is that you may already be doing something that is in fact working. And so the fact is that you're getting results based on your beliefs. So if something is not working, or you think it's like not working, the truth is it is working. It's just working based on what you believe. If you don't believe that social media marketing will work for you, then it's working in the sense that it's not working for you because that's what you believe and that's the action that you're taking towards it. If you truly believe that it would work for you and you put the right actions into it as a result of you having that belief and faith and then thinking in the right direction for it, then yes, it would work for you. And I like to share just one example as well because I think it really helps to demonstrate this example. So I had a client who was really focused on building followers, and we are going to talk about that later as well. But they were focused on followers because they believed that followers would equal sales. So they had 100 followers and they were like, I can't seem to grow it past 100 followers, and I'm really angry about it. I'm really frustrated because I can't make any sales. The thing is that they had tied their followers to the amount of sales that they could make, but they hadn't had 100 book sales and they had 100 followers. So like, I was looking at it like, why can't you make 100 sales from your 100 followers? Why do you believe that you need more followers before you can make more sales? Because the thing is, it wasn't about the followers, it was about the fact that they were wanting book sales. So they were focused on the wrong thing because they were so desperate to make book sales that that's what they were focused on. And they kept thinking, I don't have enough sales. I need more, I need more, I need more. And that created this feeling of lack, right? Because they were acting from a place of lack. If they had this belief of like, my followers will grow undoubtedly without question, and all I need to do is show up for my readers, engage them, nurture them into a place where they want to make a sale from me, and from that they will go on to spread reviews of my book that will then bring in more people. If they had had that belief system, they would have taken the right actions, which would have nurtured their existing audience, built connections with their existing audience, then sold that to that existing audience that they had, because the truth is they could have always made sales from that audience. They weren't, because they weren't focused on the right actions. They were focused on more followers, which wasn't going to bring them the result that they were after. So that is an example of how your self-sabotaging beliefs and behaviors can result in actions that do not bring you what you're actually after. So let me know if that makes sense down below. But that is why we talk about mindset in everything. It's why it's so critically important. Now, what else did I want to talk about with this? So basically, oh yeah, I did want to mention this, but let me quickly go and check the comments before I finish off with that. Where is my video? So Rain says, I post every day. I changed my mindset to present myself as an established author. I visualized my debut novel release as so much more, yet it's not where I'd like it to be, even though I know that as a debut author, I'm doing all right for only 1 month out. Is that still self-sabotaging mindset? That's a really good question. So change your mindset to present yourself as an established author. Tick. Visualized my debut novel to release as so much more. Yes. So I believe you're on the right track. It could be that there's something else there. What I would ask you, let me think of a good question to ask. Is there anything in you that believes that making the amount of sales that you want is not possible? So here's a good exercise to get you thinking about this. If I said to you, considering there's like a week or so left in this month, if I said to you, you can make 50 book sales this month, does your instant gut reaction come up as like, no, I can't? Or does your instant gut reaction come up as, yes, that's possible? Let me know which one it is, and I'll give you advice based on that. Live coaching, you guys. This is why you should join me live, because you can ask your questions and you can get live coaching. And I have like, there's something else I wanted to mention, but I don't want it to interfere with this, so I'm gonna wait until we move on. instant gut reaction is no, I can't. Okay, so the next thing I would ask you is, why do you believe that? Or why does that come up for you? And it could be because of the evidence that's already there that sort of tells you like, oh, well, it didn't happen this way, so why could it happen that way? It could be that, and it could be something else that comes up. So like try to dig into why is that the first thing that comes up for you? Why don't you believe that? So like, and then I can give you an example as well based on, I can give you two different examples actually. So the first one is I did this exact exercise. I was doing this and working through it to figure out if I felt good about earning a certain amount of money in a month. And I was like, can I reach $3,000 this month? And my first initial gut instinct was actually, no, I can't. And I was like, why is that? And that's actually shifted now. But at first I was like, why is that? I have programs that add up to that much. I have my one-on-one is more than that much. If I were to sign one client, it would happen. If I sold X amount of courses, like I knew it was possible. So I was like, well, why does it feel like that's not going to happen? Especially because I had the audience size for it. So I had to dig really deep into that. And I realized that it didn't feel possible based on past evidence. It didn't feel possible because I hadn't had consistency that matched that. And I was like, okay, well, what is the next possible feeling good number that I could reach for? And so I brought it back down to about $500, right? And I was like, can I make $500, by the end of the month? Yes, I can. And I was like, how do I do that? So I fell into an action that made sense for it to add up to that much. And I was like, does this feel good? Does it feel achievable? Yes. I went ahead and did it, hit my goal. So like, sometimes we don't take the right action because we are holding ourselves back, right? And of course, like, if you have this goal to have heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps of book sales, and you're kind of like expecting that you want to hit that much, and then you don't quite hit that goal, it can be quite, it can create this belief system and this evidence, right? But on top of that, it could have felt out of reach to begin with without you realizing, because it was such a big, daunting goal, right? So sometimes we need to bring it right back down. Even though we know that something's possible, we need to actually believe that it's possible. There's a difference there, right? So let me think. I did explain this in another masterclass that I had. Let me see if I can correctly regurgitate what that was. Basically, I believe there's a difference between believing something's possible for you and believing that something is definite, certain to happen for you, right? And that's a completely different level to be taking action from. Because if you only believe that something's possible, there's still room for doubt there. There's still room for you to be thinking, well, what if this happens? Or what if it doesn't happen? Or what if this happens instead? And like, all these things can come up for you, right? If you believe that it's definitely going to happen no matter what, there is no room for doubt, because you're like, regardless of whatever happens, I still know that this will come in without a doubt. It's like if you, let's say that I think the difference, like, okay, I'm trying to think of an example here that helps you to make sense. So let's say that you placed an order online and you had complete faith that the order would arrive, because orders have always arrived when you've placed orders online. And it's expected that because you paid money for an order, it would come and arrive at your doorstep, because if it doesn't, like, you can obviously follow that up. You've paid for something, so it has to come, right? So that's kind of like when you're in the belief of like, when you take an action, it definitely results to what you're after, right? The alternative would be if you were like, I want this thing and I'm going to just go look at a store and hope that it's there. Or I'm going to go try and find it on the side of the road. Or I'll go to a garage sale. So like an action that doesn't guarantee that you're one, going to find it, and two, that you're going to be able to get it. So that creates room for doubt, because you're like, well, what if it's not there? What if I don't find it? What if it doesn't show up? So if you take action from a different place, from a place that has any kind of doubt, sometimes that can self-sabotage, because you might change your mind on the way to the garage sale and be like, it's not going to be there, I'm just going to go do this instead. And it might have been there the whole time. So like, I know that's a really weird example, but it's things like this that can really help, can really hinder you and hold you back, right? So Rain says, I don't believe it's because I wanted 50 pre-orders before launch and month out, it was hard to get 20. Yeah, okay. So I offered more bonuses once it was past 20 to get me to 50. I got no more pre-orders. So from that, I don't believe I can get to 50 orders in 1 week. That makes perfect sense. So like, if it feels hard to get to 20, of course it's going to feel hard to get to 50. So I believe that what I feel happened is that you got to 20, that felt difficult. And then you had this belief of like, even though I've offered pre-orders, even though I've offered pre-order bonuses, because it felt difficult to get to 20 and it took this amount of time, the chances of me to get to 50 in this amount of time left, and like with the same amount of ease, I guess, because it wasn't already easy, is really difficult, right? So you probably self-sabotaged yourself in that way. So what I would ask you is, what could make it feel easier, right? Or like, what was it about those 20 that felt difficult? So you can try to like pinpoint the problem and move through it, which is also kind of really hard to do on a call like this. But I would suggest digging deeper into that. And also dig into like, if I were to believe that 50 were possible, and if I were to believe that it could happen this week, what would need to happen for me to get behind that belief system? So if you were to sit down and do a journaling exercise and be like, now that I make 50 book sales a week, I do this, or this happens, right? So like, if you can sit down and be like, in order for me to get behind the belief that now I can make 50 book sales this week, here's what would need to happen. I would need to be making this many a day, or I'd need to be taking this kind of action that leads to this kind of result. Or I would need to have this level of confidence or this level of belief behind me. And then the thing is, if it still doesn't happen, you have to make sure that those beliefs are still strong. So like, it's a really weird saying, but it's a saying of like, faith even if it doesn't show up, or faith even if it doesn't happen. Because if you say let's say you wanted to make 50 book sales by Friday. If your book sales don't arrive by Friday, do you give up? No. So like, if you keep going with the belief that it's going to happen, then you can make your book sales by Saturday. But if you give up and you don't send out that final email that would get people over the line, or that final sales post that was going to get people over the line, then people don't follow through and give you their sales, right? Or they don't purchase the book. And that could be the one thing that gets them over the line, but because you gave up early, because you didn't truly believe that it was going to happen, then you've self-sabotaged, right? So it could be a lot of different things, but that's just one example of like how you can fix it, how you can work through it. It requires a lot more deep work than just that though. Like, this is just really tough to do on a live stream, but hopefully that helps a little bit. And that's something we can work on together anyway. Let me go ahead and keep going. Let me know if you have any other questions though. So, I also wanted to mention that for anyone who kind of struggles with showing up, selling, believing that they can make sales from their books, here's something I want you to understand. So I truly believe that if us writers, we have the belief, or we have the desire to write and tell stories for a reason, which is always there. It's always available to us. We likely grew up writing stories or doing it as a hobby, so it's always been a thing that was a natural calling for us, right? But we made the choice to want to share that with other people, and that could have been due to a calling as well, like this desire to have our stories read by people. Some people write and then never share their stuff and they're happy with that, but us, people who pursue publishing, we do have that calling to publish it and have it read and sell it and, you know, impact people on a wide scale, right, with our stories, because that's what we want to do. And I believe that calling or that desire is placed within us for a reason. So what I truly believe is that when we are called to write our stuff, and we have created this thing that only us people can do, so like not everyone can write stories, right? We are the only person, you and I, like you yourself, are the only person that can write the book the way that you can write it. You're the only person who can come up with the stories that you come up with and write them the way that you write them, right? So if that's true, then you're the only one who can give someone else that experience and that story. And people need that. People want that from us. People want to be entertained. People want books. So we are giving people something that they want. And so when we feel called to share our work and monetize it, I believe that is inspired action following our desire to write, because we have this desire to write, we have this desire to share it, and then from that we get the inspired action to monetize it so that we can do more of it, right? Because if we're in a 9-to-5 and we're limited because we can't be writing when we're at a 9-to-5, we can't be creating more content and getting it out there faster for people, then obviously that's holding us back. So the inspired action for us to show up and market and sell our books and then reach readers and impact readers as a result is inspired action guiding us to do more of it and to create a reality where we can do more of it so that we can help more people and we can impact and share our stories with more people. So I believe that we are meant to market ourselves. We are meant to market and sell our work. It is what we're designed, or what we're supposed to do, right? It's part of the whole writing process, part of the whole authorship journey. And if we don't show up and market ourselves, we're missing a whole piece of that puzzle. Like, we're just ignoring a whole part of our job, right? I also believe that, like, that is exactly, like, it is a part of our job to show up and market ourselves, because otherwise it doesn't get to the people that it's meant to get to. It doesn't reach the right readers, and we don't get compensated. We don't feel compensated for the work that we've done, so then we don't feel good about showing up. We don't feel good about marketing, and it creates this whole cycle of negative feelings. So I believe that we're meant to show up and market. First and foremost, if you can't get behind showing up and marketing your books, that is something you need to work on. So let's go into how to make marketing more simple, okay? So I know that when I first published, I had this realization that I was like, okay, I don't want to be marketing my books all by myself forever. I don't want to be posting in 200 Facebook groups a day and then only making enough that I can afford a coffee. I don't want to be, constantly chasing readers to buy my books. I want them to come to me because they hear about me, they want to read my stuff. So that's how I decided I wanted it to be. And so from that, I looked into automation. I looked into how to schedule my stuff ahead, how to automate a lot of my marketing posts and a lot of my emails, and do a lot of that kind of stuff so that it was all automated and I didn't have to be manually doing each step. But I also looked into content marketing, and this is a really big thing that I teach, because content marketing is what attracts your readers to you, so that you don't have to go chasing readers constantly to make sales. It's what attracts them to you, right? So what I believe in that regard is that you can't have any of this work unless people actually know, like, and trust you, and they actually, are called to your brand, your author brand, and like become a loyal reader, right? And it also doesn't work if you don't reach people outside of your friends and family. And this is a big thing where people get stuck, is that they launch a book and they don't really understand how to market themselves properly, and so they only reach their friends and family. And then they go, well, how do I reach other people? And it becomes this whole thing where they're like, I had this really failed book launch because only 3 people bought my book because only my friends and family knew it was coming out. And so what I identify being the problem in these situations, it usually comes down to one of these 3 things, okay? One is that they're not easily discoverable. So when they're showing up online, they might be in some writing groups on Facebook engaging and, sharing page likes and things, but they're not easily discoverable by their ideal readers. They don't have an Amazon page, a Goodreads page, they don't have a social media presence where people generally think to go look for people. That's like their first thing that they do, or they don't have a website and it doesn't show up in Google. So there's lots of things that could be interfering with your ability to get discovered, first and foremost. Secondly, you might not be visible enough or consistent enough online. So I teach in a lot of my things about how it takes like 7 to 8 impressions before people think to even buy from you, which means that you need to be showing up so much that they get to see your post or you 7 to 8 times. You need to be super, super visible. And that's why I say you should post every day and market every day. But the point is that if you're not marketing frequently and consistently and regularly, then of course you're not going to be easily discoverable. You're not going to get discovered at all because you're not visible, right? Thirdly, your messaging or your content is off. So it's not speaking to your ideal reader because you're only reaching your friends and family. The thing is that with content marketing and attraction marketing, you're not going to attract the right people to your brand if they don't resonate with what you're saying, if they don't feel that it's for them. So if you're going out there with really generic, basic posts and you're just saying things like, my book is 99 cents, or it's on sale today or this weekend, or like, it's the next book in this series, but you don't really explain why it's for them. You don't say it has these themes or these characters or these plot points, and you don't say, why you became a writer, and you don't talk about any of that, then your content's not going to resonate with people. Because there's so much content online that people can consume, you really need to be speaking directly to your person and hitting the mark that way. If you're not doing that, you're not going to attract them. They're not going to realize that your book is for them and it's something that they're going to actually enjoy. So that's really, really important. And It's all stuff that I cover in my course, Story Seller Academy, just by the way. But I'm going to go ahead and answer April's question. So April asked, I'm having trouble building up an email list. So what's the best way to rapidly build up someone's no factor in the book launch process, and why or how does it work? And this was a really good question, by the way, because it really helps me to hit home with what I'm saying. So let's talk about, before I get into no factor, let's talk about what no, like, and trust factor is for anyone who is really new to it. So no, like, and trust factor it's really just that. It's the idea that people get to know you, they get to like you, and then they get to trust you. And these are three key components that I needed before people can make a sale from you. And I know that there are exceptions, like you might walk into a bookstore, see a book that you like or that you think looks interesting and buy it, and that's that. That does happen. It also happens with ads. You see an ad, you want the thing, you buy it. Like, that happens. But a lot of the time, consumers need to spend time with a brand before they feel comfortable purchasing from the brand. And you see this, it's actually a proven study that people tend to consume content from a brand for a period of time before they go and buy it. And that could be through, blog posts or videos or just social media posts, or seeing an ad a few times before they actually go ahead and click on it, right? And so you'll notice if you go into a bookstore, and there's a brand new book out by a well-known author who's already established themselves with a no, like, and trust factor, you don't need to, look through the book, maybe see if it's for you. If you like the author, you pick up the book and you buy it. That's just how it works, right? And that's because the author is very established and they are known for what they do. They are liked for what they do. And people trust them to be a good writer because otherwise they wouldn't be this well known. So that's a whole marketing thing. Anyway, I do want to mention that in my courses, I teach what's called the attract, nurture, close process. And I also teach this in the ebook that I mentioned yesterday. And basically, the idea is that this will move people through the stages of getting to know, like, and trust you so that they can actually make a sale from you, right? Now, I actually went ahead and opened up an excerpt from that ebook that I mentioned yesterday, because it really explains this no, like, and trust factor really well. So I'm going to read it out to you live. So here we go. Okay. Building no, like, and trust factor relies on two key things. One, the content that you put out there, and two, the consistency in how you show up. Okay. So when people know you, they know who you are and what you do. This can be established on a very basic level by showing up regularly on social media in a way that attracts and engages your ideal reader. That's why I teach the attract, nurture, close method. When people like you, they feel drawn to who you are and what you do, and they want to support and advocate for you. And this can be established by using your platforms to create video content, engage with your audience, and using calls to action to direct people from your social media platforms to your website. And that could be even like a book sales listing. But the point is that they can find book information, they can find book buy links, they can find your blog, they can find your newsletter sign up. You're moving people through the process from having discovered you to engaging with you and becoming part of your community. And the more they consume content from you, the stronger the connection they will have with you, okay? And then when people trust you, they will give you their personal information, like an email, to subscribe to your email list and receive a freebie from you or a lead magnet. And they will rave about you to your to their friends and family, or even on their own blogs. If you have bookstagrammers, they might post about your book there. And they will purchase your book if it's the right fit for them, if it's something that they think they'll enjoy. So to further solidify trust with your audience, things like book reviews, book publicity, and launch hype all work really powerfully to make that happen. So that is like a little overview of the know, like, trust process. But to answer your question and just like really summarize what I said, to build up no factor, people need to know who you are and what you do. So the question that I would ask is, when I show up online and in all of my author pages and author bios, everything, is it very clear who I am and what I do? And in a lot of cases, it's actually not, okay? So I pulled two examples from Instagram. These are random people. I don't even know who the first one is because it's so unclear what it is that they do. Basically, I'm going to read it out to you, and I'm not trashing on this person, by the way. It's just like, as a reader, my first glimpse at this person, I have no idea what their book's about. So it's just an example. This person, their handle is not like an author name or anything. It makes no sense. It's just like random words. So the handle is not easy to find. Then you have the title that comes up, and it says aspiring author. So it doesn't say the author name, it says aspiring author. And that comes back to that whole branding thing. When you come across an author, if the first thing they say to you is I'm an aspiring author, that does not really come across very credible. It's kind of like, well, why should I buy your book if you're an aspiring author? Then they went on to say that their main work in progress was historical fiction, and it's at 90k words, and their side work in progress is only 32 words, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, so first of all, you're very difficult to find if I were to try and find you. You're an aspiring author. I don't know who you are. You just say you're an aspiring author. And you don't give clear names for your works in progress. So one, I don't know what you're working on. And two, I don't actually care about your word count goal. That doesn't appeal to me at all as a reader. What I care about is what the book's about. So it would have been way more effective to talk about what genre you write in or what the book is about, like give a little teaser, not to talk about your word count goals. So like the point is that this bio it doesn't appeal to readers, it doesn't speak to readers, and it's not clear about what you do. But it really speaks to writers, and this is another problem I see in the general author community, is that a lot of authors will have content that speaks to other authors because that's what they find easiest to talk about. But that's not going to resonate with readers because readers don't really care about the writing process, they care about the books. So that is one example of something that's not clear, okay? Here's an example that is clear from Victoria Aveyard, from her Instagram. So not only does she have, that's the other thing about the previous one, the photo was not an author picture, it was a picture of a book and some flowers, in a field of flowers. This one with Victoria, she has an author profile picture, so you can see immediately who she is. Her handle is Victoria Aveyard, so she's very easy to find if you type it in. Her title is Victoria Aveyard, so you know it's the author. And it says in her bio that she is the New York Times bestselling author of Red Queen. So if you know Red Queen, you can find her that way. And even if you didn't know Red Queen, if you came across this author randomly, you would know immediately that she is the author of the Red Queen series. That is what she does. That is who she is. That's what she does, right? And it also says that her new series, Realm Breaker, is coming in May 2021. So not only do we know who she is and what she's done, we know what she's doing next and when it's coming out. It's all very, very clear who she is and what she does, right? So this is really, 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 really important, right? But then also, the clearer you are on who your ideal reader is and the more consistent you are in posting content that attracts them, then the more likely you are to attract the right people who are going to vibe well with you. So like, if you're posting content that's aimed at writers because you're talking about your writing process and you're talking about your word count, that's not really going to attract readers the same way as teasing your new book series is going to, right? And really getting specific about what the series is about. I think Victoria has really established herself as someone who understands politics because she talks about politics on Twitter. So it makes sense that she can write really good political stuff into her fantasy books, which is all, her first one was all about a war, so it just made a lot of sense. She really established herself as credible in that way, right? She also proved that she could write a really good book. She also talks about her experience screenwriting, so she has that to to back her up in a credibility aspect. But more so, like through her content, she's just proven that she understands fantasy. She writes fantasy, that's what she does. She's known for it, right? If you were to, like, if I said to you, I want a horror book, the first name that probably comes to mind is Stephen King, because he's established that he can write horror. That's what he does, that's who he is, and that's the first person you think of because he dominates that niche, right? So, like, if you're trying to build a no factor, get into a niche, understand what genre do you write in, what's the niche, how do you establish yourself there, who is your ideal reader that you're speaking to, and then create content that makes sure that you are known for that thing and you are known to be that person, right? So that is, hopefully that helps to answer your question, but that's basically that. Now you also asked, what is the number one thing that you can't skip in your marketing plan, and what is something that you can get away with not doing, which is also a really good question. So the first thing, what you cannot skip, I believe, is building an audience. You must have an audience for you to be able to sell your book. If you don't have an audience, if people don't know that you have a book, if they don't know that you exist, if you haven't spent time building an audience, who are you going to sell to? You launch a book, it's not going to sell because there's no one there. So you really, really need to make sure that you have an audience and you spend the time building it, because it does take time. It's going to take you more than a month to build a good audience, okay? So building the audience is the one thing you absolutely cannot skip. But something you can get away with is not being on every single social media platform. So you don't have to be on all of them, contrary to popular belief, especially if you're trying to get really visible. You may think, well, then I have to be on Twitter, and I have to be on Instagram, and I have to be on Facebook. That's not true. You could be on just one social media platform and do it very, very well, and people would know that you're on there. People would just find you that way because you would show up, because that's clearly where you're promoting yourself, and you could make it really clearly known, you know, on your website, this is where I show up. So as long as you're doing one thing well, then that's fine. You don't have to be absolutely everywhere. Okay, now you also asked, well, you mentioned that you're stuck with traditional publishing, and you're wondering, how can you build up a readership to impress the big guys while keeping my readers interested, since getting a book contract can take a really long time and you don't want to lose anyone along the way, and that's why you're hesitating to build readership without the book contract, but you also know that getting the contract will be easier with the readership already there, which makes sense. I kind of summarized this into a line because I feel like that was a lot of information. So you're hesitating to build readership without the contract because you don't want to lose readers if it takes a long time to get the contract. So my response to this, first of all, is that you don't actually need to have a readership to get a contract. I've gotten contracted without it before. It does help and it is recommended. What is better, like the thing is, publishers don't really expect you to have an audience, right? They expect you to be actively working to build one. That's the difference. So you don't have to have a readership, especially not an impressive one. You just have to be actively building one. You have to show that you have social media, that you're working on building readership, and explain how you're doing it if they ask, right? That's basically it. But something that came up for me when I read your thing was, if you're building readership just to get the contract, are you doing it for the right reason? Because the thing is, you're not really going to be excited to maintain your readership if you don't actually want the readership, right? If it's just a means to an end to get a contract. I think you need to be in it for a more, for a better reason, right? Especially because you're absolutely right. Like, you are going to struggle to engage your readership and keep it engaged if it takes you 10 years to get a contract, because, you know, that might happen. It might take you that long. And in that process, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then it's not really going to work, right? So this kind of comes back to that whole I need more than 100 followers to make sales thing. It's not really like that at all. You know, if you think that having an audience is a prerequisite or a requirement to get a contract and that's the only reason you're doing it, I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. I think you should be focusing on building readership because you want to have readership. You want to have that experience, right? So what I really recommend is building an audience who genuinely understands and connects with you and really wants to be there to support your book, because at the end of the day, that's why you're showing up. That's why you have readership. I think that should be the one thing that you're focusing on bridging the connection with, right? So like an example would be that with my business, if I made like $1 million tomorrow, right? If I had $1 million and I was set and I didn't need to be selling my stuff, the thing is I would still show up and have a business and promote my stuff on social media because I actually enjoy it. I actually want to be there to help my audience. I have a real connection with my audience. So it doesn't matter, like I would take the end goal out of it and be like, what would need to happen for me to still want this, to still have this experience? And if this doesn't work, what else can I do? And then like that can be a way that you can pitch to publishers as well, because you might say, building an audience on social media didn't work for me for this reason. Here's what I've done instead. And that's a really unique thing that they can look at, right? And it has been done, because I know that there are authors out there who don't enjoy social media and they make it work in other ways. So you may have established a network with bookshops instead, and then that's your way to get to build readership, right? Because you're going through an alternative avenue. Anyway, that's off topic. The thing I want you to understand is that it can't be as a means to an end, right? So what I wrote out some questions to help you, okay? Your readership should matter to you, and you should be building readership out of a genuine desire to have the right people reading your book. So I would focus on things that build that connection point and ask yourself, what kind of community do I want to cultivate and engage with, okay? If you could pick anything, like what would you actually enjoy? What kind of audience do I want to have? And then what kind of actions can you take to build and engage an audience that looks like that, okay? So like, for example, if I was like, oh, I really don't want to have an audience that doesn't respect my boundaries, then I wouldn't do things that clearly let them disrespect my boundaries. Like if I was like, I'm not going to be answering reader comments after 9 p.m. Not 9 p.m., like after 7 p.m. at night, I'm going to have my night off, then I wouldn't get on Instagram and start answering comments after 7 p.m. And on top of that, if people were in my DMs saying, hey, why didn't you respond to me yet? I wouldn't be like, oh, sorry, I was enjoying my evening. I'd be like, I don't respond to comments after 7 p.m. Like, I just have a really clear boundary there. So like, you know, that's just one example, but like you want to cultivate something that works for you and something that you enjoy. So you need to make sure that you're taking actions that are in alignment with that. So that is that. Hopefully that helps to answer your question. Let's move on to how to plan for consistent income. So here are the types of income that you need. Basically, first of all, let me ask you this. Have you ever run like a weekend flash sale for your books and then you've gotten a ton of sales from that and you felt like, oh, this is awesome, people are finding my book, and then the sale ends and you don't make any sales and like it all dries up and you're like, why didn't that work? Why aren't my sales still going, right? Have you ever wondered how to keep your book sales consistent like that? Or have you ever had a really great launch week, right? And you had like lots of sales in your launch day or your launch week, and then right after that, you didn't make any more sales? Or do you have thousands of followers on your Instagram and then like not thousands of book sales, like none of them are translated over to book sales? Let me know if that's any of those things that you've experienced, because here's the thing. Firstly, I want to preface by saying that that's completely normal as a new author. It's completely normal to like have these up and down periods. But secondly, it's why I recommend introducing alternative income streams, okay? Because here is a fact. Most authors, most of your New York Times bestselling authors, they actually don't make their full salary off of book sales because it's really difficult and unsustainable to do that. They actually make it off of the author appearances that they do. So they will get paid to go speak at schools and events and festivals and promote their book there and then sell more books there. So that's how they do it, right? But that's just one way to do it. You don't have to do it just that way. That's just one that works really well. So I recommend that instead of just relying on book sales, you have 2 to 3 income streams in your author brand that relate to what you do as an author and your unique brand, but they help you to generate books, like general authorship sales across the entire brand, right? So here is why. So let's just say that you want to make $2,000 a month from your authorship and your writing, okay? Which means that if you're selling a book and you get $4.50 for every book sale, then you would need to sell 445 books a month, or you would need to sell 5,340 copies per year to make that goal and have that much money coming in, right? And the reason for that is because your readers, they can't buy the same book 10 times. There's no reason why they would need to do that. So for every reader, they will purchase one book, unless it's a special edition, it's a different format, or it's a gift, which is not usually what happens, right? So that means that for every reader, you need to then go find another reader to make another book sale, right? And that's why if you want this to work and you want to be making consistent book sales or consistent income just from your book sales, then you will need to grow your audience every month by 445 people to hit the $2,000 goal, right? Let me know if that makes sense. So this is why it's much more sustainable for people to have multiple ways that they can make money through their author brand, because putting all of your eggs in one basket like that really is not great. And let's say that you have a rough month. Let's say that you have an accident and you can't show up, or for whatever reason book sales went down that month, or something happened and then you couldn't hit your income goal as a result. What happens when that's your only source of income that you're relying on? It's not sustainable. So you do want to have other ways that you can make income that are bringing it into your brand with ease. Now, I do have a resource for you. So this is a really great thing. It is a workbook on 4 different types of author income streams that you can use. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the comments below. This is a free resource, and I just want you to know about it, so that if you're thinking, okay, how do I diversify my income streams in my brand, go ahead and take a look at this, and it will walk you through 4 different ways that you can do so. But to be clear, with my author brand, I have 3 different ways that I make money, and one of them is book sales, right? And on top of that, I have 7 books that I've published, which means that if I want to hit $2,000 a month, that means that I don't have to sell to 445 new people. I have to sell to 50 new people who want to buy the same book, who want to buy all 7 of my books, basically. Or a mix of that where I'm selling to 50 people for 1 book, right? And that means that maybe I have 50 people go through 3 books in my series, and then I have another 50 people go through another 2 books from a different series. So I don't have to have as much audience coming in that I'm building. I just have to make sure that people are going through the sales funnels. So that's a whole different thing. But it means that it really simplifies what milestones I need to meet in my offer brand to make the sales, right? So this is why having a diversified amount of income streams is really important, and that book will help you to look at all those different options. But that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. So let me know if you are watching the replay, if this was helpful, if you have any questions. And if you have any questions now, let me know down below. But before I finish up today, I just wanted to let you know as well that I'm doing a 48-hour flash sale on Storyseller Academy. So if you don't have Storyseller Academy and you're not already a student, I would recommend taking a look at this. So it is currently on sale for $497, which means that you save $200. Where did it go? I had the link open, but it's not here. Hold on a second. 1 second. Oops, I'm gonna have to go pull it up again. So this course, this is my signature course, by the way. This is, 1 second. Yep. So this is my signature book launching and marketing course. It's very foundational, and basically it's going to help you understand how to publish, launch, and market your book. It goes through all 3 of those things. So if you're interested in enrolling, I would definitely take advantage of this flash sale, because I don't run flash sales for this very often. If you have any questions about it as well, just let me know. But what I wanted to mention is that if you do happen to enroll in the next 12 hours from now, or well, 11 hours actually now, from now 11 hours, then I am going to be sending you a free bonus gift as well. So make sure that you definitely go check it out. But yeah, definitely let me know if you have any questions. It basically, let me walk you through some of the outcomes that you'll get out of it, just so that you're very clear on what it is. Basically, you're going to be able to get the following. So you'll have a step-by-step walkthrough on how to publish your book using my simplified 12-step strategy. You will have incredible publishing resources and templates, including a pre-formatted manuscript template, and insider tips and knowledge on your standard metadata that you'll need to publish your book, and secrets to boost your Amazon listing that a lot of people don't know about. So that's really cool. You will understand how to do a short and long book launch and which one is right for your book. You will discover the biggest launch mistakes that I frequently see authors make that sabotage their launch efforts. And you will learn sales and marketing tactics to secure pre-orders and sales during your launch lead-up, launch week, and launch day. That's a specific thing I teach there that's actually really helpful. And you will learn how to get stocked in bookstores and learn incredible features for your book, plus how to do social media to market your book. You will discover how to engage and grow your readership, gain more publicity and credibility around your books and brand, And you will receive my additional character movement message formula that will completely transform the way that you write book blurbs and marketing content, plus more stuff than that, because there's so much more that I cover. You also get over 5 hours worth of bonus trainings that cover things like copywriting, Facebook ads, author branding, getting stocked in bookstores and libraries, book publicity, and all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely a good chunk of material in there that's really going to help you out. So let me know if you do have any questions, but that is available for the next 48 hours from this time that it's airing. So if you're watching replays in the future, you'll have to wait for the next flash sale, or you can just enroll if you want to at the full price. But that is basically it. So I will go ahead and wrap this up. We don't have any questions. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for the final training in this series. Okay, bye.